They cast you as one of the hunks in the Spartans.
Right, absolutely.
Ready to fight for you, my king. Never give up. Never surrender. To infinity and beyond.
He has a lot of heart, my king, and nice man boobs.
Indeed.
We expanded from infidelity to blackmail, fraud, extortion, drug dealing.
All the good stuff.
All the good stuff.
Today, Jareb Dauplaise from Meet the Spartans is here. His upcoming movies are My Life in Ruins with Richard Dreyfuss and Transformers 2. And later in the show, Ricardo, Herranz, and Alfredo Brito from the popular Spanish language series Secretos, and also actress Linda Wang. First up, Jareb Dauplaise.
Hey.
Great to have you here, Jareb.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show, man.
I saw Meet the Spartans again last night, and they cast you as one of the hunks in Meet the Spartans.
Right, absolutely. You know, with that one, there's a lot of working out to do.
A lot of working out.
Lots of ab crunches and hip toss movements to just kind of get the body ready for that one.
Because that, of course, is a spoof on 300. And those guys were all in great shape. Well,
I mean, technically, we did our movie first, and I think 300 was making fun of our film. So our movie's the real one.
That is revisionism history. I know for a fact. I paid my $10 6 months before that.
Thank you. Do you want that back, or are we good?
Yeah, I'll take the refund. Actually, I'll take the cash. But you were actually cast, though, called in. Because that 300, you know, the guys were the Spartans in really great shape and everything.
Ripped up.
So when you saw the part, you were like...
Right, the part came to me, and it was by Aaron and Jason, who had done Epic Movie, Date Movie, and all the spoof movies before that. And I just finished Epic Movie, where I played Nacho Libre, so, you know.
Jack Black.
Right, the Jack Black character. And of course, I put on weight for that. You know, normally I walk around like you know, ripped up, a little bit of hair, hunk guy.
Like some of the other guys who are
right. The guys coming on next. But for me, I kind of bulked up for the role, and then when they came at me for Meet the Spartans, the role was you know, late 20s, early 30s, just bronze, ripped, hair, you know, like girls, calendars, you know, hot stuff, and I was like, there must be a mistake. Like maybe that guy couldn't make it. So they kind of brought me in, but again, it was Aaron and Jason, so they knew what I looked like. And I went in there for the role and took my shirt off and booked it.
And the rest is history.
I mean, this is kind of where the money comes from, you know what I mean?
And the reason I mentioned that is, you know, because you brought the comedy to it and it kind of went, you know, if you pardon my saying, it went a little bit against the original type.
Just enough against it to where we couldn't get sued.
But it shows you how, if an actor is right for the part or brings something, you know, like sometimes you hear like they'll put a woman, actually they just put Angelina Jolie in a guy's part. Or
and I went out for that, so she beat me out for that as well.
See? Well, you know, this time, and she lost the weight after the pregnancy, that's the thing.
Right, well actually we came in and we did some lip tests together, and it went with hers at the end. I can't.
But okay, so you grew up in Florida, Melbourne, Florida, and you told me you were on a farm near the beach.
Yeah, pretty much. I grew up in a small town called Melbourne, Florida. And my grandmother owned a farm. We had chickens and goats and horses. Yeah, all the good stuff.
And the reason I mentioned this, you said it's one of those small towns where people always lives in the town. They don't go anywhere. They don't go on. And here you are, what, 2 years later, you're in LA, coming up in Transformers 2, just did Meet the Spartans, an epic movie, Entourage, Monk, all that. How did you get from the farm in Florida to Transformers 2?
Horseback.
Horseback.
Yeah, we just rode a
How long did that
thoroughbred
take
right up to Philly. You know, it's a great question. I am from a very small town. Like when I left, they actually went and changed the sign from population to 2100 to 2009. Actually, if I did that math right. But no,
I'll have to watch the tape to catch that.
We'll play that back. And if I said it wrong, just kind of voice over, put the right number in. As you can tell, I could not be a mathematician.
I'll change it. If you got it right, I'll change it so you did.
Joined acting instead of being a math major.
And believe it or not, you tell me, this is really hard to believe, talking about going against the type, you were the class clown.
Right. You know, a lot of people thought I would be most likely to succeed, and curveball, class clown.
And you said your mother hated that. You were voted class clown.
Well,
and the teachers hated it.
Some of the teachers who had a good sense of humor, which was one, she enjoyed it. Everyone else, you know, my mom's number was on speed dial, so it was just straight up, your son won't sit down and shut up. So it was just constant calling.
So you were in trouble a lot.
And my mother was a school teacher.
At the same school?
No, at a different school, thank
school.
God.
Okay.
Because if she would have been there, I would have made straight A's. My mom was a school teacher, so it was kind of tough. Like, my mom would come home and she'd be like, "Oh gosh, this kid in class won't shut up, and he runs around all day." And I'm like, I can't stand the fact that someone would do that to you, Mom. And then I go to school the next day and do the exact same thing to all the teachers.
You were getting ideas. She was giving you ideas.
Right. I was like, what was that kid doing? Was he funnier than me? What kind of jokes did he tell?
Acting,
did he come to school on time?
She was giving you.
Right. Because, actors, that's how we learn. Someone else is better, steal that, and now it's ours.
Exactly.
That's kind of how it works.
Now, and you did go to acting school.
I did.
But you told me you actually, surprisingly, didn't really fit in an acting school, or didn't.
Right. Yeah. I went to a small college, Florida School of the Arts, up in North Florida, and it was audition only to get in. They take 16 kids a year across the nation. It was like this, this real big deal. And I got in, and I just thought, just start practicing the whole Grammy speech now, and getting all the Emmys and everything. But of course, I went there, and it was like didn't work out for me right away. Coming out of high school, I'm kind of into sports. In case you can't tell, I might have played football for a little bit. Lineman, of course, ladies, not the running back. Sorry, but I was in school, and everyone was wearing black, and everybody was just like, really into the
artiste.
Right. But it was a little deeper. Like just kind of, I was like, what are you doing? Where's the realism? Where's the imagination? Let's have fun with this acting stuff. Not everything has to be 8-page worth of notes to kind of play the guy who has 4 lines in The Crucible. We can have some fun with this stuff, and teachers disagreed with that a lot. And,
well, it's working. Whatever you're doing seems to be working.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what it taught me was that I learned how to handle rejection at a very young age. When I was getting turned down in college for the roles, it kind of said, okay, this is what it's going to be like. I better be able to accept no now, because for every 10 auditions you go out on, you might book 1 or 2, and that's a successful actor gets 10 or 20% of their work. So handling rejection at an early age, I think, helped me build a tough chin to get here. And also with school telling me no, I still wanted to be an actor. I still love it. There's nothing I could do outside of this. So I just looked elsewhere. And that's where LA came, and that's where other things came up. I looked in Orlando, went down to Miami, got an agent down there, and just kind of rolled with it outside of the school. And I could book jobs that paid me, but I couldn't book the jobs that I did for free. So.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Go for the money.
Not bad. Not bad. We're
running out of time, but the movie with Richard Dreyfuss.
Yes. My Life in Ruins will be out May 8th. Fox Searchlight picked it up. Executive producer Tom Hanks, Nia Vardalos, Richard Dreyfuss, Rachel Dratch, Harlan Williams. First time out of the country. We shot in Spain and Greece for 2 months. It was absolutely amazing. So true, what do they call that? Romantic comedies, kind of like boyfriend, girlfriend movies. I'm 300 Meet the Spartans, so I'm not really, that's why I trouble with true romance, love story, but it's a great movie. Everyone worked so hard on it, and it's a tour guide. Nia Vardalos is kind of trying to find what she wants in life. She's not really happy with her position and where she's at, and she kind of goes exploring, and we're all on a bus for 2 months.
All on a bus. Well, I can't wait to check it out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jareb.
Yeah,
Continued
awesome.
success. We'll be right back.
I just... Oh. Ooh. Queen Margot.
Yeah.
Vamos a comenzar a trabajar en el caso de Jessica Gómez.
And we are back. Joining me now is Ricardo Herranz and Alfredo Brito from Secretos. Great to have you here today, Ricardo.
Thank you for having me here.
Alfredo.
Thank you very much.
So I hear the show is very popular in the Spanish language community, really all over the world.
It is actually. We have a captive viewer segment that measures between 4 to 5 million per day, which is quite nice. It's a very good
this
chunk.
is on every day, Monday through Friday?
Monday
to Friday.
9:30 p.m.
Okay. And the basic premise, this started out as a reality show.
Yes. He actually started the show. He's
right.
He's the oldest member of the cast, actually.
Right. The oldest, the longest running, but you're younger than him, right? Or
Well,
not?
oldest meaning the longest, the longest,
running,
yeah,
okay, gotcha.
longest running,
I'm
yeah.
just teasing you. Because he's 26, I don't know.
Yeah, we started shooting these shows like
5 years ago.
5 years ago.
And this, like, the show we're doing right now is totally different before. Like, now it's like a miniseries, you know, before it used to be a reality show.
So why the change? How did that come about?
Well, at first we were at 8 o'clock. We aired at 8 p.m. every day. We switched times from 8 to 9:30. Now competing with a whole new segment of miniseries and movies and productions. That
Because your big competition's Telemundo. And
Telemundo, Univision. So at that time, they are basically throwing their heavy-duty, you know, novelas and miniseries. So we had to step up a notch and basically polish the product and create more of a miniseries format rather than a reality.
So it
TV
kind of
show.
went from cops to like Law and Order kind of thing almost?
In a way.
But the interesting thing is, so you told me that you actually, these are based on real cases. You get letters from the viewers?
Yes.
Is
Yeah,
that?
we still have it.
Yes.
And then you kind of fictionalize them or investigate them, or how does that work?
Yes, pretty much. We get about 100 letters per week, and only 2 cases can be, you know, considered per week.
Oh, okay.
So they just gather.
Oh, so it goes on for a couple of days.
Every show that airs for 30 minutes takes about 48 hours to 72 hours to complete
Okay.
the whole
Yeah,
shooting.
But
or
is
3 days.
each episode is self-contained, or
Yes,
does it?
yes,
okay,
self-contained.
Gotcha. Okay.
So sometimes we go by the actual story 100%, you know, and we hire actors, you know, contacting the real people involved and getting all the information. But a lot of times we change to format the story to the TV, you know, format instead of that book sort of narrative
Have a little-
storytelling.
Yeah. Have a little fun. Well, I want to say fun with it, but whatever. You know, add a little drama maybe.
Oh, yes.
But sometimes you actually use the real people in the, or
Rarely.
not.
Rarely.
Rarely. Okay. So what's a typical? You said these are all based around like infidelity or
Yes.
different scam. I mean, there's secrets. That's
Well, originally it was infidelity only,
It's
wasn't
infidelity
it?
is about, like, you know, like selling drugs, like about drugs.
We expanded from infidelity
Depends.
to blackmail, fraud, extortion, drug dealing.
all the
any-
good stuff.
Yeah.
All the good stuff.
We're going to specialize in that around here.
Where truth needs to be uncovered, basically. That's
Going for truth and justice.
that's her.
And you have a really international cast. You're from Caracas and you're from Sao Paulo, in
yes,
Brazil.
Brazil, yes.
And
So
we have Argentina, we have Colombia, we have Mexico in our cast.
Everywhere,
We have
from
the
everywhere.
UNO, basically, in our production.
and you're actually part Spanish though too.
Yes, my mother is from Madrid, Spain. And my father from Venezuela, even though half of his side, his maternal side is from France, Marseille. So I
But-
have kind of a combination.
But so that really does give you a pretty wide audience then, or potential
Yes,
reach around
yes,
the
it
world.
does. Yes, it does.
So
It's what they call the international Latin person that could be from anywhere, you know. That opens up a lot of doors. Actually, nearly 1 billion viewers if you count that whole market worldwide.
now, as we said earlier, you're the longest running cast member at this point. You're both the hosts basically, right? That's what you.
Yeah,
He's
you
the
can
main
say-
investigator,
A main investigator.
and I'm the
okay.
host
You're
of
the
the
host,
show.
okay.
He's
Gotcha.
my boss.
Oh,
Actually.
you're the boss. Oh. Is he a good boss?
He's a good boss, yes. He's a good boss.
I'll ask him later off the show.
I was gonna say, yeah, just get him behind the camera.
On camera.
Yeah, he's a good
Well, I'll ask you, is he a good employee? How's that?
No, he's great. You know, we actually have a great team, and I think that makes things a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable. When you come to work, and not only you enjoy what you do, but you enjoy the people that you do it with.
Sure.
That makes a big difference.
And now, are there any long-range plans for this, or I guess the idea is just to keep
Oh,
it
yes.
going as long as possible? Or
Well,
what do
right
you-
now we're regional,
Okay.
and
So here in LA, or
here in
different-
LA and in
Houston.
Texas. Well, actually, we cover we're partially national because we go from Texas in L shape all the way to California and all the way to Washington State.
Oh, okay, okay.
But now several TV stations were purchased by the group that owns our channel. And they got one in Utah, another one in Oklahoma, another one in Chicago. So they're
I think
basically,
they bought one in New York too.
and they're basically negotiating one in New York, and they're going to go national by next year. And hopefully the national and international jump will be at the same time.
For that. Now, it's interesting, you actually kind of came to LA on sort of a whim. You were doing acting in Brazil, but
yes,
your brother
I started my career as a model, like doing runways, like photo shoots. And I studied theater in Brazil, like São Paulo. And actually I came here in this house for my brother in wedding, like I told you.
Getting married here in LA?
Yes,
in LA?
my brother, yeah. And my brother, you know, why you don't stay here? You know, it's right here in this, you know, this is the capital of the entertainment. So why don't you stay and try here? I was like, okay, let's try, let's do it, man. You know, I'm here. You know, when you got here, you gotta do different things like work, you know, different jobs.
Did you do like the waiting tables kind of thing?
Yeah,
the typical,
you know, yes.
Yeah.
And finally, like 3 years after, you know, I got this job. And
you've been on it ever since?
Yes, I have been here almost 5 years.
February of next year is going to be 5 years.
And Ricardo, you actually studied organic chemistry in Brazil, I believe.
Organic chemistry and analytical finance. Nothing to do with the showbiz. But I've been always involved with show business somehow. So little by little after I graduated from college, I started working on the field that I graduated from. But at the same time, I was going more and more towards the artistic side, to the point that I just said, you know what, I'm gonna fully commit, you know, to what fulfills my heart. One fulfills the pocket, and the other one fulfills my heart.
Sometimes you just have to go for it.
Yes, absolutely.
So
I'm quite happy, and I started in Venezuela, and after a few years, I decided to go for a bigger Latino market, which is Mexico, the biggest actually, in Televisa. There I worked for several years in several soap operas. And then I just wanted to go.
Those are really popular in the Spanish community, aren't they? Like those novellas or telenovelas?
Yeah, the novellas, the soap operas are pretty much in the Latino community, in the Spanish community, the equivalent to the Hollywood mega productions here. The superstars in our community are not from film, but from TV, basically.
The film is start getting better now.
Now it's getting better, especially in Brazil.
Yes.
Brazil's got great film. But overall, TV seems to be a more powerful media for the Spanish community.
And you worked in Mexico then for several years?
Mexico for a few years, and then after going through the biggest Spanish market, I decided, what's bigger? So the only one bigger, it's Hollywood, you know, the mainstream market. So I decided to come here to try my luck within North American films, you know, TV industry, and all the good stuff.
We'll be right back.
Quiet! Have a seat. This is Jessica Gomez. You have 5 minutes.
Perfect.
Hey, no touching.
And we are back. Joining me now is actress Linda Wang. Great to have you here today, Linda.
Pleasure to be
At
here.
long last.
Yes.
So I should say you were on Secretos recently with Ricardo.
That's correct. I actually initially met Ricardo on a film premiere in Beverly Hills years ago. And later on, when I was on the set on Secretos, I was like, wait a minute, this guy looks familiar. And I said that to the director, and the director's like, no, you've probably seen the show. And I was like, what? A chinita seen the show? I don't think so. But anyhow, on Secretos...
I'm sorry, but that was Hollywood Familia that you saw him in?
Familia, yes, definitely. And he looked a little different because he had, I believe, a little bit of a beard, and also his hair was a lot longer.
Oh.
I was in character, basically. I was
you
a
have
father.
the whole Fabio thing going on? Is that it, the long hair or something?
No,
or?
actually, it was more like the father of one of the lead, actually.
Oh, okay.
But it was a flashback. So I had a
And it was kind of like about a dysfunctional family or something, or a group of women?
A dysfunctional family that came about an accident, because when apparently, you know, the character that I played got killed when he was rather young. And
based on a real true story?
Apparently, a lot of that movie had to do with the actual female actress who produced, partially directed, and was the lead of the show. Not all of it. It's not verbatim. It's her life story, but there is a lot of truth in what went on there.
I see.
So her father got killed in an armed robbery, basically, and that created a whole consequence of psychological dysfunctionalities in her family.
Would do it. And you said this film was actually nominated for...
One of the, I think the song was nominated for an Oscar.
Oh,
for foreign
congratulations.
films, on the foreign film departments, yes.
So you recognized him on Secretos.
On Secretos, and I play an officer, which is amazing because...
By the way, I watched the tape on that, and you played a mean officer.
Yeah, she
I
did.
think she seemed like a nice person. You were hardcore.
Exactly. Well, what happened was
She did good.
initially I went in for another role, but then I was reading the script and I saw two other roles. One was a male cop and one was a female cop. And the description of the female cop was Latin American and / African American. And I was thinking to myself, well, my cousins are NYPDs, so why can't this be Asian American female cop? So what I did was, as an Asian American actor, I believe in creating your own opportunity.
Sure.
So what I did was I told the casting director, and she was gracious enough to give me the opportunity, and I'm very grateful.
You know, kind of like we said earlier with Jareb going against the type when he got his
Yes.
part, you also there again went against the type maybe of what they might have expected and
Yes.
got the part, so good for you. And they tell me that was one of the highest rated episodes that you've had, is that right?
I was told by the producer, yes, at the time.
So now you got a lot of Chinese fans watching too.
Well, actually, there's a lot of Chinese around the world that live in Cuba, in a certain part of Mexico, and other places in South America. And then they speak Spanish.
Now, oh, sorry.
I was going to say, we have about 100,000 Chinese people in Venezuela now.
You see?
Living.
100,000?
Yeah, there is quite a large community there now.
Well, maybe you'll be speaking Mandarin or Cantonese on the show eventually.
Eventually, I believe so.
Speaking of which, you were the dialogue coach on Tropic Thunder, the hit movie from the summer.
Yes. Initially, I received a call from the casting director, and I worked with the casting before on as a translator for Deadwood on HBO. So he called me up and he's like, oh, you know, I have a film coming up and it's Untitled, and will you come in and meet the producers? And I did. I initially had the meeting, and the meeting went very well. So they decided to hire me as a script translator, and later on into a dialogue coach situation with all the actors that speak Chinese.
And by the way, all the actors only happen to be Ben Stiller, Robert Downey Jr., Matthew McConaughey, Tom Cruise. On that, I mean,
That's
so
correct.
many
The
A-listers.
list just goes on. But especially with Robert Downey Jr., I was so impressed because in Chinese Mandarin, there's only 4 sounds. And because he has a musical background, it was very easy for him to pick up the sounds.
Oh.
Plus, what I was really impressed about him is that, you know, not only he was dedicated in learning the language itself to a T, but he acted out the role, meaning he spoke Mandarin Chinese with an African-American Australian Chinese accent. And that was incredible, yes.
And how, you know, you also taught the little kid, the Brandon.
Brandon, yes,
who
Brandon
was
Sue.
the mean bad guy, the leader of the bad guys.
Oh yeah, and actually, you know, initially when I went in for the interview, I told the producer of the film that, you know what, this situation actually did happen. And, you know, I read a book a long time ago when I was a little girl about this little boy who was a descendant from the Kuomintang after World War II. You know, before communist China took over, and some of part of the groups went to Taiwan, and the rest of the group went to Burma. So they were ethnic Chinese, and he was only maybe the real character was actually 12 years old.
12 years old.
Yes,
And that's about how old Brandon is, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Wow,
So,
12 years old and the
years
leader
old,
of...
and he was the leader of a Herranz, you know, like a drug trafficking type of situation, you know, within that region. I mean, they were ethnic Chinese.
Well, and by the way, that's been such a big hit. It was #1 for how many weeks?
About 4
What was it like
weeks,
working with the rest of the cast? Did you get to work with Tom Cruise or?
I mean, you know, watching Ben Stiller direct and watching all the actors perform, I mean, it was an experience of a lifetime, and I wouldn't change that for anything else.
Well, maybe if they do the sequel, you can come back for that. But you've also done Saturday Night Live and Conan O'Brien. You worked with what, Will Ferrell
and Chris Kattan and John Goodman and David Spade. What happened was initially when I was on Conan O'Brien, I auditioned as a skit actor, and the casting director of Conan O'Brien was gracious enough to give me the opportunity, and I played many roles since the pilot of the show. And I think one of the most memorable role was the masturbating bear's girlfriend.
Wait, do I even want to know what that is?
And later,
Just imagine.
and later on, the casting director went on to SNL, and he took my file with him to SNL. And as you know, it's very rare because on SNL, unless you're the host or you're the guest of the show, you don't really get to perform as a sketch comedy actor. But I was lucky enough, and I think I did one of the show where Will Ferrell, Chris Kattan, and we played 3 geishas. And imagine 2 male geishas, Will Ferrell, Chris Kattan, and me, and they were actually better looking than I am, you know. And afterward, that was the last episode of where Will Ferrell was on SNL, and his career took off afterwards.
So Will Ferrell makes a better looking geisha than you, is that what you're saying?
He's actually very
I've seen
pretty.
him with a shirt off on
too
TV.
hard on yourself.
And I should say, by the way, with your long black hair, you were actually the Pantene woman or something with one of those commercials at one point?
A very long. Well, at the time, my agent submitted me for the hair go-see. I went in and I was in a room full of giraffes, beautiful giraffes. There were 5'9" high fashion models. And I was like, what am I doing here? But I did what I did, and next thing you know, I got the call, and I was like, oh my God, I booked it.
Well, thank you very much again, Ricardo Herranz from Secretos. Best of luck with that series. Linda, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.